Gus Gould burst into training, fiery video session, apparently spraying the Bulldogs and in particular their halves, and then takes the field session and Trent Barrett, the coach, watches on.
That noise in the distance is the funeral march. It's just begun. This is generally when it happens this way. It's not the first time Phil Gould's acted this way as general manager over a head coach. It never ends well, and I think that's pretty much the way this is going to now head, Braith. It's going to take a lot to see if Trent Barrett can be saved, if you ask me anyway.
Look, it's a massive vote of no confidence in the coach. And what concerns me, and his assistants too, Craig Sandercock and David Furner, what concerns me is that I don't believe Trent Barrett is accountable for any longer. When you consider Gus said to him for the first 4 weeks, you can't pick Kyle Flanagan, then he's coming in spraying the players and taking over the training. Tim Sheens has done the exact opposite at the West Tigers. He's kept out of Madge's way. He's given Madge everything he wants. He doesn't go to training. He doesn't go to the sheds game day. So if anything goes wrong there, Madge is accountable.
Look, so let's just take everybody through. So what's happened is yesterday during their review, so Trent Barrett's in the review room. He's got his first grade team in there and he's got his New South Wales Cup team in there. Suddenly, with a bit of a theatrical bang, the doors open and in walks Phil Gould, the head of football at the club, and then spends the next 10 minutes essentially praising the reserve grade side for their win. They obviously had some players out. They had to lose some players to the NRL side, whatever, and they had a good win against Mounties over the weekend. But then the tone turned, and what happened out of that was Gould then turned on the first grade side and gave them all a bake, and I mean all of them. Particularly focused on the spine, and among the spine, as we know, and the guy who, I spoke to people in the room who said it was particularly savage on Kyle Flanagan. Not just Kyle himself, they're all getting it, but Kyle did come in for special consideration, which then had everybody back on their heels a bit, because as everybody knows in the game, Gould can give one of the best bakes around. Then what happens, they walk out of the review, they go out on the field, and Trent Barrett stands at the sideline and lets Gould go out, and he then runs the session. Which again, what was it, 3 weeks ago? He told us he had nothing to do with the football team. He does no coaching. I think we've got the quotes.
Kenny, Gus is the master of theatrics, right? We all know that. Spin and deception.
Yes.
This reeks to me of a setup. Like, Gus has got in there, I'm sure he's spoken to Trent about this, and that team deserved a bake after the way they played last weekend. So rather than Trent delivering the spray and losing the playing group, because I would suspect the way they're playing, that's already at risk of happening. Gus has walked in there and given it himself. And maybe it's his way of showing support for Trent Barrett. So Trent Barrett isn't the bad guy in this situation. Trent Barrett's given it out with the players. He doesn't have to be the one to deliver that sort of news to the players. Gus is happy to put himself in that position to be the fall guy. I
don't disagree with you, Reedy. It could well have played out that way. And then Trent Barrett has actually spoken to Hoops today, and he said that him and Gould were basically on the same page. They'd spoken about it, that the players need to hear a different message from a different voice, and that's why it happened today. That's all. That could well have played out that way. But the bare facts are he did come in and the players were taken aback by it.
Well, they should be.
But now let me say this. But the problem is this. He's done this before. He did it with Ricky Stewart. Cost Ricky Stewart his job at the Roosters after time. He fell out with Graham Murray when he was coaching director at the Roosters before Ricky Stewart. Graham Murray went to his grave, God bless him, blaming Phil Gould for what happened at his career at the Roosters. Then you have what happened at Penrith with Ivan Cleary, first time round. Sacked him because he was too tired.
But we've spoken on this show about Trent Barrett's situation. And then there was a 6-week block he started right now where he needed to win footy games. And I think they're 0-2 in that 6-week block. You know, ultimately his fate rests in his own hands. If he wins football games, Brent, he keeps his job. Brent, and he's not winning games.
But Reed, he's not allowed to coach. He's not the coach. Name me another NRL coach
who
has anybody in their club walk in and order them to the sideline while they take the coaching session.
Did he get an order into the sideline?
Well,
do we know that?
Ask politely then. Does it matter? The fact is, tell me another coach who's been made to stand on the sideline while his head of football or any other person involved with the club has come out and run the session over him.
Well, it's suggesting he had some help at the moment.
Reedy, Gus was adamant he had no hands-on role with the team when speaking on his podcast earlier this month. Take a listen.
From what I see, and I see most of their training sessions, I'm not part of the coaching staff. I don't do coaching, but I'm around the sessions a lot, and I like to be close to them so I can actually hear them, not just watch them. I like to hear the communication on the field. You know, as I say, I don't coach the side and I don't get involved in the coaching.
So there he is, Gus, adamant that he doesn't coach the side. He's adamant that he doesn't get involved in the coaching, but yesterday he certainly has. So the tune has changed.
20 days ago.
It's only a few. So regardless of whether it's a choice by Trent and Gus and a ploy and a tactic, or it's the opposite, it's still bad. The place is still in a lot of trouble.
Look, what you've got to understand are the cold, hard statistics. Trent Barrett has a 12.9 win record in 2 years at Belmore. He's won just 4 of 31 games. And what Gus did at this training session was basically say to them, you can't arrest the problem that we're now in. I need to get in, I need to do it. Now, long term for Canterbury, this is bad news. I'll tell you why. This is a long rebuild. I don't care if they run 15th, 16th. This is a 3 or 4 year, get them back to the top.
It's going to take a lot more than 4 years.
Yeah, but Kenty, you tell me, would Shane Flanagan, would Paul Green, would Cameron Serrano take on a job with such a dominating figure who walks into training or roars in or charges in, whatever words you used, and takes over the football side? Who is going to want to do that job?
No, that's a good job.
Listen,
that's a good job. You're well paid. That is a good job. They got Villiamy and Reid Marnie coming this year. They've got money to spend.
They don't have a halfback. They don't have a fullback.
You know the problem is the Bulldogs now, if you're the head coach? If they start winning, it's Phil Gould. If they continue losing, it's Trent Barrett. And it will remain that way.
You think they're going to start winning?
From an
come on.
They're not going to start winning regardless.
From an ex-Bulldogs point of view here, and I speak to a lot of the ex-players a lot, right? And I just can't fathom the position they're in. They bought Naden, Burton, Addo-Carr, Pengai, Dufty, Vaughan, and they've lost 6 in a row. They've won one game 6-4 to start the season. They've gone backwards. And they've got Trent Barrett and they've got Gus Gould, 2 of the most powerful figures in the game, the apparently smartest minds in the game, but the club's going backwards.
But you hit the nail on the head. Ultimately, Trent's survival at that club will be dictated by whether he wins games. He's won, 12.9% of his games? That will decide his fate, not whether Gus is coming in and controlling training sessions.
He took the team off him, Reedy. Took the team off him.
He took it off, for one session this week? What about the last 2 years? What about the last year and a half?
What about the mixed messages from Gus? So 20 days ago, he does not... Hang on.
That's Gus, Kenty.
That's Gus, so what do the players believe then? Do the players believe the Phil Gould that came out over the summer and nurtured Kyle Flanagan and looked after Kyle Flanagan? Let's go back to that podcast 20 days ago and listen to what he said about Kyle Flanagan.
It's my responsibility as to how Kyle has been prepared for this season and to when he comes back into the NRL. Not Trent Barrett, not the Bulldogs. That's me.
So not even 3 weeks later, he's singling Kyle Flanagan out with his halves partners, right? Singles him out. 3 weeks.
Privately he's been trying to sell him. Privately he's been trying to sell him.
But how do the players at Canterbury trust anything that's been said now? How do they trust that?
Because they don't know. The smart ones probably don't.
Well, who's the coach? No one really knows now. Have you got my back? Because you had Kyle 3 weeks ago. Didn't look like you had it yesterday. So who do we trust there? Like which version of Gus do we trust now?
Can I say something?
And what are the other people doing at Canterbury though? Where's the CEO? Where's the chairman? Where are those people who are supposed to have had some influence? They had a clean out some years ago. They have a clean out of Canterbury every 3 years or so. Suddenly, this new administration have got this guy in running the whole program like he's Idi Amin. It's a dictatorship.
Let me just say one thing, and it's probably going to sound disrespectful, I'm going to say it anyway. Phil Gould has achieved more than anyone on this table would ever hope to achieve in rugby league. The bottom line is he is now 63 years of age. And the modern way of running a football club and doing what he did on Tuesday afternoon, I don't know if it works. And you go back to Penrith, and you go back to what he did with Ivan Cleary. He did not want Ivan Cleary back at that club.
Yeah.
Now, Ivan Cleary got back to that club through Dave O'Neill, the chairman, who overruled Gus to get him back. And then they went about dismantling the roster that Gus built. Yeah. They sold Campbell Gillard, they sold Blake to Parramatta and had to pay them. So what I'm trying to explain is, in modern times, Gus hasn't played it all that smart.
Let me tell you also, the emperor has no clothes, okay? So for the best part of 20 years now, he's been a general manager of football or coaching director or whatever, and other than Ricky Stewart in 2002, he hasn't been at a club that's won a premiership. So for all, and look, there's no doubt he's got a high intellect, he knows his footy like few people do, but for some reason, the teams improve, and then they begin to just plateau out a little bit, and they don't seem to get there, it wasn't until Penrith got rid of him that they actually won the premiership. So other than 2002, which is now 20 years ago, he has not been around at the club when they've turned that into a premiership.
Hey, Gus is a genius, and I thought his combination with Barrett was a good one, and I expected a hell of a lot better. I really did.
They won in 6, bro.
Yeah, I know. No,
of course he's got to get in help, right?
I'm surprised by it. That's what I'm saying.
But other chief executives or other general managers solve the problems other ways. And history has shown that Phil Gould walking out on the field and telling the coach to stand on the sideline, he did it with Griffin, he did it with Cleary, he did it with Ricky Stewart, he did it with Brad Fittler at the Roosters.
Does he last then, Barrett? How long's he got?
Well, I think the band's just started.
You think the writing's on the wall?
The funeral march has begun. Like Trent Barrett.
I think the writing's been on the wall for a while.
As a head coach, you have to be head coach. If you're not head coach of your club, and traditionally, general managers work in collaboration with you, and they're both going the same purpose, but they work side by side. One leads the coaching for the coaching, and the general manager runs the salary cap and the roster recruitment and all that sort of business, and he works in with what the coach needs. Here we've got a crossover of duties now, and as I said, every time this has always been the beginning of the end for all those other coaches that got sacked while Gould was general manager.
Can I ask what you would have him do? I mean, they're 1 and 6. Do you want him to just sit back and let things keep going as they are?
No, I don't think...
What's he do?
Well, he calls in the coaching staff and he makes them accountable. He asks why they're not fit enough. He figures that out first.
I'm sure he's
they
already
can't
asked
win.
those questions, wouldn't he? I mean, that's what the smart
so a little
manager
bit of a couple of trick plays are not going to fix that. Go out one coaching session where you teach them a couple of trick plays is not going to fix their lack of fitness.
But he's not the coach, mate. He said that himself 3 weeks ago.
He said, but
he should be planning long term. He should be doing what he did at Penrith behind the scenes in putting in place pathways to their NRL squad, building the academy, snipping people like James Packard at 30 million to make it all happen. That's Gus's role. He is not a coach. If he's not happy with the coach, he should sack the coach. They should do what Cronulla did with Morris last year. Bring someone else in, give him this year to plan and take over.
He's castrated the coach.
Yeah, well, I don't disagree there.
It's an embarrassment. It's an insult for Trent to be held up. They tell me, someone who was there said the poor bloke looked that awkward.
Yeah.
Standing aside in the background as Gus was running it. Really, really awkward. And obviously, when James Hooper spoke to Trent today, Trent was not in a position to give us his real thoughts, was he? He can't take on Phil Gould.
You've got to take on board the fact that when he did speak, and Trent's a really honest guy, more honest than just about all coaches, to be honest. But you also got to take into account the fact that a day earlier, the coaches walked in and basically pushed him to the sideline. That's in the back of his mind while he's trying to answer and explain what actually happened. And look, I feel sorry for Trent Barrett. As I said, I've lived through this before, and it's never ended well.
Didn't Trent run 15th in his last year at Manly with a pretty hot roster?
Yeah.
And sadly, I think he might be one of those guys who's a great assistant, like he was at Penrith, and he helped Cleary develop his game. But his record in recent years is 12.9% in 2 years.
Yeah, I get that. But see, the problem...
Kenny, how long have Canterbury in the comp? 80-odd years?
Since 35.
Yeah, well, look, you know, if they lose on the weekend, that's the worst coaching record in more than 80
If
years.
it's not Baz, who's in line? Who's next? Is there any mail, any noise around?
You
Is
know
there
what I'm doing,
anything?
Braith? If I'm a coach out there and they say, hands up, who wants to coach Canterbury? And I look over and Phil Gould's asking the question, I just put my hands down and sit down.
That's what I said.
Because Sorrello's a logical bloke. He's the next in line for everyone.
Sorrello,
He's got a relationship with Phil.
Which is probably why he won't go there. Probably why he won't go
And
there.
they're a club that's got money.
Sorrello has...
Seriously, you're not that silly, are you? Do you think that anybody thinks that they can go... Why would a young coach who's going out to try and prove his bones, why would he go to a club that he knows the minute it starts to... one of the wheels begins to wobble a bit, that the coach is then looking to the next one or looking to push him aside?
Sorrello is very, very similar to Craig Fitzgibbon in that he wants to do an even more thorough apprenticeship at a good club under good people. That's why there've been rumours linking him to Wayne Bennett and Trent, all that sort of thing. And he'll wait for the right opportunity. And Canterbury ain't the right opportunity right now.
There's coaches out there who jump at the job, though. Let's be realistic. Well, I mean, Flano would love a job. Paul Green would love a job. Mate, are you serious? Christian Wolf would love a job.
They're both very strong. They are both very strong-minded.
It's ridiculous to think that no coach will go. That is
They are
insanity.
strong-minded coaches who have been around a long time and won premierships, Green and Flanagan,
Yes.
and they will not tolerate that
No,
interference.
but they back themselves to go in there and get the job done. I guarantee you they would. You think no one would take that job? You guys are mad.
Someone will take it, Reedy.
Yeah.
And when they do, it'll tell us a lot about them.
Okay.
All right, lots to play out at the Bulldogs. Hopefully they can get it all together, but I think it's watch this space.